call this meeting of the Northwest Suburbs Cable Communications Commission to order. The roll has been taken. The first item on the agenda, I'm sorry. I wanted the first item on the agenda to be welcoming of the new commissioner. So you've got an indication in your materials that we have John Elder here. He was first a member of the New Hope City Council back in 2008, and then you became mayor at this last election. You're a captain on the Robbinsdale Police Force, and you've had a long experience in various different capacities. You were a spokesman for the Minneapolis Police Department at one time, and I always heard you in the middle of the night and all day long. I could tell your voice on WCCO radio, and you've been in the Pine County, Isanti County Sheriff's Department, and wide experience in both government and in police work. So welcome to the commission.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next thing on the agenda is the consent agenda. I would like to remove number 3 from the consent agenda for further discussion. Is there anybody that wants to remove anything else from the consent agenda? Or is there anyone that wants to make a motion to approve the balance of the consent agenda?
So moved. Seconded.
Okay, so we've got a motion to approve items 1, 2, and 4. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no or nay. What we approved is the minutes from the May 15th meeting. We acknowledge receipt of the minutes from the February 20th Executive Committee meeting, and we approved the treasurer's report. I pulled number 3 because it's an acknowledgement of the unofficial minutes from August 7th, where there was a joint meeting of the Northwest Suburbs Cable Communications Commission and the CCX Media Board of Director Executive Committees. Those bodies probably won't meet together again, and if they do, they may be composed of different people. I note, and Shannon notes, that there are most of those people from those 2 committees here today. Please raise your hand if you were on that committee. Is there a motion from somebody, preferably from the Cable Commission, to approve those minutes? I make that motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so anybody can talk about this that was on one of those two bodies that formulated this committee. Does anybody have any changes that they wish to make on those minutes? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor, and everybody can vote that was there. All those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 All those opposed say no or nay. That motion carries unanimously. Next, action items. We are here, one of the big things for today is to consider the Comcast franchise extension. Mike Bradley, our attorney.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, and good morning, everybody. We have some good news to share with you. Shannon and I were able to meet with Comcast and agree to a 5-year extension of the current franchise agreement with Comcast. So all of the existing provisions that are very beneficial to this commission will remain in place for the next 5 years through 2030. The access television funding will change from a per subscriber per month fee to a gross revenues based fee of 2.25% of gross revenues. That will be collected and remitted at the same time as the franchise fees. That will increase, we believe, funding to CCX and the commission. Another good provision for community media is the simulcasting of all of our channels in HD and SD. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions, but our recommendation is for the commission to approve the extension. We're also going to be asking CCX to approve the agreement as well. The reason for that is we have not only a franchise agreement, but we also have a local origination agreement between CCX and Comcast. So we're kind of taking care of both of those extensions in one document. Happy to answer any questions.
So, go ahead.
Mr. Bradley, what is that number that we expect to see it increase by? If right now it's about $1.67 per subscriber, and we're getting in X amount, and if we go to the 2.25, which is a little bit less than half of what we're getting from the 5% fee that we're already getting, so I expect somewhere between $1 million and $2 million increase. Is that the number?
I can answer that. I believe it's $1.36 per subscriber what we receive right now. So if you look at the Q2 numbers, and right now we receive those PEG fees monthly. So in March we received for about $48,000, April $47,000, May $46,000. If we look at the franchise fee and do the math, that goes up to about $99,000 per month. So it's almost double the PEG fee. I didn't calculate it by the year, but I just took Q2.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else?
Mr. Bradley, when you said it's gotta be approved by CCX, what does that mean? Who specifically?
The extension agreement that's in front of you has a place to be signed by by the commission, but then also by CCX Media, and that's because there's two different agreements. One's between the commission and Comcast, the other one's between CCX and Comcast.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay, does anyone else have anything else? You are looking for a motion to approve the extension of the
Yes.
franchise
Correct.
and to sign this particular agreement that's in our materials.
Yes.
Is there such a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. That motion carries. Okay, well, congratulations for getting that done. I understand that you've done a number of other ones. This is just kind of for informational purposes in the area and maybe in other states too. And this is, the terms that you negotiated are in line with what everyone else has been getting on their extensions lately also.
That's true, yes. And I have done franchises across the country and particularly in the metro area. And in Minnesota, in the metro area, the support for community media is probably the best of anywhere in the country, to be honest with you. And this new model for funding, at least the capital support of CCX Media and the commission, is right in line with other jurisdictions. So we're pleased with it.
Well, thanks for representing us, because that, I'm sure, was a shortcut to knowing whether we're getting a good deal or
Yeah,
not.
for sure. Yeah.
Okay, next thing on the agenda is a presentation and expected approval of the 2024 Cable Commission and CCX Media Audit Report. And go ahead and introduce yourself.
Sure. Andy Grice here from Bergen KDV, here to present the audit results for the year ended December 31st, 2024. Do have a presentation here to provide to you today. In addition to your reports included in the agenda packets, we have the financial statements as well as our communications letter. So the next slide highlights the audit results. Going one more slide, specifically our independent auditor's report that's included in the financial statements. And this report talks about our responsibility as your auditor as well as your responsibility as management. And that management annually is responsible for preparing the financial statements, and our role as your auditor is to come in and test, examine, look at the underlying documentation to support the numbers and disclosures in your financial statements, and ultimately give an opinion as to whether we believe those financial statements to be fairly stated in all material respects. Happy to get a report that we are providing a clean or an unmodified opinion, which is the best that we can give as your auditor. We also have, again, our communications letter. That includes all required communication in accordance with audit standards. Also talks about our consideration of internal control over financial reporting. So we did note one internal control finding again this year related to a lack of segregation of accounting duties. That is a common finding with a smaller office size, so just something to continue to be aware of there. And then we also have our legal compliance reporting. We take a look at certain state statutes applicable to other governmental entities, and we had no findings to report in terms of any non-compliance with those state statutes. The communications letter also includes some financial analysis. It has some charts and graphs just to take a look at trends, also some budget to actual information. So we'll start by taking a look at the Northwest Suburbs Cable Communications Commission's fund, which is a governmental fund. That fund called for $4.2 million in revenue, about $460,000 in expenditures, anticipated a surplus there for the year of about $3.7 million, and then anticipated transferring out to the CCX Media Fund about $3.7 million for the related costs for operating that fund. Again, expecting a net surplus for the year of about $5,542. When we took a look at actual results, actual revenues came in less than anticipated by $435,000, and that was due to less cable subscriptions, so less franchise fees and access fees than anticipated, and that ultimately led to a lesser transfer, but ultimately did have a decline in fund balance for the year of about $346,000. Now, just again a reminder, this is a governmental fund, so we look at the term fund balance as the equity position in that fund, and it is really like a checkbook balance. Going on to the next slide, we have the CCX Media Fund. That fund is a full accrual enterprise fund, and so this does present a bit differently, has some different terminology. The equity position in this fund is termed net position, so this includes all assets, all liabilities associated with that fund. When we take a look at the budget to actual results here for 2024, it was anticipated that there would be no change in net position, so basically a balanced budget. When we took a look at actual results, there was again a lesser transfer than originally budgeted, and as a result, there was an increase in net position for the year of about $137,000. This fund is in a negative net position at the end of the year of about $1.2 million. And just a reminder, the significant driver of that is some of those full accrual liabilities. So there is the net pension liability included in this fund. It's very common to have a negative net position because most governmental entities will never write a check for the pension liability that's present there, but again, it's just acknowledgement of the proportionate share in the statewide pension plan. If you were to
just to interrupt you there,
Sure.
is our percentage of funding in line with other organizations that you audit and or study?
I would say that when we take a look at that particular component of your liabilities, if we were to factor that out, as well as compensated absences, it's basically break even at the end of the year. If you were to factor that out, it'd be about $30,000, about a $30,000 net position if you were to factor out pensions and compensated absences. So that is consistent with other organizations. They do not fund that pension liability.
Thank you.
Going on to the next chart, just looking at a 5-year history of budget to actual results, just to highlight that, overall, at least looking at 2024, 23, 22, and 21, typically actual revenues have been less than budgeted, again, mainly due to just less than anticipated franchise and access fees. On the other side, going on to the next chart, we'd see the expenditure side and a similar trend there, just seeing those actual expenditures coming in less than anticipated based on those results. The next chart shows the proportion of each of the revenue sources to total revenues. Just a little bit of a change comparing 2023 to 2024. One thing that's included in that other category are investment earnings. So whenever that becomes negative, we do have to recognize unrealized losses each year, regardless if they're positive or negative. So we did have that occur back in 2023. But overall, franchise fees were about 81% of overall revenues, where access fees, because of that investment earnings shift, dropped from about 19% down to about 17% here for 2024. The next chart highlights some of the same information here over the last 5 years, but also gives a percentage of the franchise fee and access fee. And that franchise fee continues to kind of increase over the years presented, did remain the same between 2023 and 2024 at 83% of revenues, where that access fee continued at 17%. The last chart highlights the overall revenue streams as well as kind of those different components, just to highlight that there has been that declining trend just based on cable subscriptions. Again, that franchise fee being at a low point in the years presented at just over $3 million, and the access fee being at a low point in the years presented at about $632,000. those are the charts and graphs that we wanted to provide, just to kind of, again, highlight some of those trends and provide some additional analysis. And again, appreciate you having me here to present the audit results. And next, I'd just like to open it up for any questions.
Anybody? Questions? So repetitively, because of the size of our staff, you do have this thing that says that we have a lack of segregation of accounting duties due to the limited number of employees, and then you indicate that there might be some remedies to do, and we're taking the remedies, I guess, that we can take. You feel that the oversight and the checks and balances that we provide, given the size of our staff, are the best that we can do, basically. Is that true?
We don't provide any opinion on that particular question, but we do kind of evaluate the nature of the internal controls in place, and basically having that condition in place means that you don't have 4 different functions being completed and only being done by 4 separate individuals. You're basically at a point where, to address that finding further, it may you may need to have additional people involved in order to get that segregated further. So yeah, right now I think mitigating controls, evaluating budget to actual results, checks and balances, additional reviews of year-end reconciliations are all kind of mitigating or compensating controls that kind of help to get it to a lower level. But overall, adding additional people is kind of the only way to really get further segregation at this time.
So, I guess, Shannon, I see, like, if there was only one person that did all of this, especially if she never went on vacation, like the case I'm thinking of in the past, that this could be a problem. We have more than one person that can check in on these various accounts and see if the other person has done something wrong accidentally or on purpose.
Yes. We have people internally, and then we have Abdo Financial Solutions that are involved in as well in like reconciling all of our statements and double checking as well.
And Abdo Financial Solutions can go in at any time and see any of our financial information.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? So we are looking for, I guess there was a presentation. Are we looking for a motion to acknowledge receipt of this report?
Yes.
All right. Is there a motion to do that?
Second.
So Mr. Bell made the motion. Okay. Discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no or nay. That motion carries. Next is appointment of the nominating committee. And so if I had my memo that I wrote in front of me, yeah, I do have that. It falls upon the chair to appoint a nominating committee for the offices for next year. At November's meeting, we're going to have an election with regard to that. It's important to note that whether the nominating committee nominates you or not, if you want to be a certain position on the executive committee or just be on the executive committee as a general member, you should indicate that to Shannon and/or at the meeting itself. The nominating committee that I've chosen, I guess, with consultation from Shannon, is April Graves of Brooklyn Center, Risicott from Brooklyn Park, and Beth from New Hope. And even though I have this power to appoint the nominating committee, it says at the end of the memo, I recommend appointing April, Risicott, and Beth to the nominating committee. So, is there any discussion about that? Is there a motion to acknowledge that these people should be on the nominating committee? Okay, well, since I wrote the memo, I make a motion to have these people be on the nominating committee. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, so I fumbled the pronunciation of your last name, sort of, because I just didn't do it, Risicott. So tell everybody how you pronounce your last name.
It's Adesage.
in, almost phonetically exact.
So if I could read, I would be able to pronounce it. Okay. Any discussion, or anybody want to nominate somebody else to be on the nominating committee? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no or nay. That motion carries. Okay, presentation and approval of the budget for 2026.
Yes, this is a big one. So thank you, Mr. Chair and the Commission. I have the privilege of presenting the 2026 budget. We started on this budget right after the May meeting, and we put emphasis on shrinking the budget to live within our projected revenue levels. On the next slide, you will see a graph that by this point we all should be familiar with if you've been with us for a little while. This is a graph that shows the decline in the number of cable subscribers. We've lost 44% of the subscribers we had in 2011. On the next slide, you'll see how the numbers correspond to the amount of revenue coming in. Franchise fees are 5% of gross revenue from cable video service. It's been decreasing since 2018. It's estimated to decrease 6.3% from 2024. PEG revenue for the last several years has been at $1.36 per cable subscriber. It's been declining since 2015. We anticipate PEG revenue to decrease based on the actual number of subscribers, but as we just noted when we approved the extension, we do expect that number to go up. We did not include any projections for that number to go up in our budget, simply because we didn't want to count our chickens before they were hatched. It was all still in play. But that is definitely good news. Moving to the next slide, okay, on your screen right now. This is a graph that's been used for a while. You'll see the decrease we spoke about highlighted in the first 3 lines of the graph. A bright spot that you might notice is the number 4 line of other net revenue. We are expected to do a few more for-hire services in the CCX Media part of our organization as we transition from graduation or commencement to moving that in the for-hire category and charging for those services. We also have a contract with the City of Wayzata for their City Council meeting services, so that number is up a little bit higher as well. You will note that the operating expenses went down due to our strategic efforts in making budget cuts this year, and you will also notice the Capital City grant line is at 0, as this is our plan next year to absorb capital grants back into our operating revenue. And finally, we'll move on to the next page. This is the one-page budget for our cable commission that I believe is fairly self-explanatory. Overall, we've made an effort to cut operating expenses where we can. You will see the flat capital fund grant and the capital fund proportional grant has been cut. We plan on keeping those funds within the commission to operate and help offset declining revenue. This is one of our major financial moves for 2026. You will notice the transfers outline. It's right above the buildings line on that graph. It's $2.7 million. That's the line that funds CCX Media, and that line has been cut by $847,000. Under capital budget and equipment replacement, the commission does own this building, so we need to put a little bit of money back into it. We do have 2 capital requests for the commission, and that's $15,000 for roof maintenance and repair, and also $15,000 for asphalt repair. Not that exciting, but needs to be done. Overall, this budget has been cut by $1.1 million, so we're going from a $4 million budget to a $2.8 million budget. There are 2 other items in your packet related to this agenda item that I will reference. One is a 1-pager. That's the commission budget at a glance document. I put these budget at a glance documents together after feedback from the previous meeting when there's just requests for easier to understand budget items. So my hope is you can just look at this page and get some simple explanations if you need them. The second item is one from CCX Media board member Eric Margolis that Chair Blonigan asked me to include in the CCX Media budget that will be presented in the next meeting. There is not a COLA increase for employees, and this document is in reference to that. That's included in the budget for your information as well. With that said, creating this budget and cutting to the extent that we did was by no means easy. The budget involved input from every department manager, and I would like to thank Julie McMackins from Abdo for helping us, as well as our technical services director, James Anderson, who is operating some of this meeting right now. He's in the control room. He has been instrumental in cutting our operational costs and just looking for all of those additional places that we can save. I could not do this without him, so thank you, Jamie. The executive committees of both organizations did have an opportunity to meet in August, and they were able to review the budget and ask questions. I'm also happy to answer any questions in regards to the commission budget. And with that said, we would recommend approval today.
Thank you. So I just said, I noticed that Shannon and all the people that you've trained here hardly ever say or and it was fun to see you say one time. The point of this, however, is that you had a typographical maybe in your talk. We're at 44.4% of the revenue, not, it didn't decrease 44%.
Okay, sure.
Oh, okay, all right. So that was fun, even though I say and I can't talk like a broadcaster can. The other thing that she mentioned was that the real only point of contention, I think, was whether or not we have a cost of living allowance increase. And Eric sent some memos to us, an initial one and a revised one, which I think you have. The argument was to not have a COLA is that, was it 40% of our staff went away, or what percent of our staff went away?
7 out of 26, so whatever that is, off the
Okay.
top of our head.
All right, so it's not 40%, but we all have phones, we can calculate that. A lot of people lost their jobs or else they went down. And then my point was that in my job, I had lots of years when I didn't get a cost of living increase. I had lots of years when I made less than I made last year. We are an organization that in certain areas of our employees, maybe camera person and things like that, we pay not only the industry standard, we're just a little bit above, which is sort of remarkable for an organization that's not as big as WCCO or something like that. So Shannon also went to the heads of the departments, and you had consultation with them, and you all agreed that there should probably not be a COLA. One of the people that you said shouldn't get a cost of living increase was yourself, even though you could argue that you had more responsibility this year. The countervailing argument from Eric was that if you went up 3% or 2% or 1%, it's an indication to the staff that remains that you are valued. You are doing a good job. It's not your fault that this situation is happening with less revenue. So I sort of went back and forth on that, and I was mostly of the mind that we shouldn't give a COLA, but you have the argument that we should give a COLA of 1% or something via Eric's letters and everything like that. You kind of, is it in the report, or do I just know it, that all the staff reductions that you have made?
It's in the CCX Media report, coming up in the CCX Media budget.
Okay.
But they
Just kind of outline that briefly for the commission. Maybe.
Sure. We made cuts across every department, so there's not any department that's unaffected. And the decision not to do a COLA increase, I went back to our archives, and while we have offered a steady 3% increase since 2016, if you go below that, it's kind of all over the place. Particularly coming out of the recession, there were some years that we did not get a COLA increase. The mentality I had, and that what I communicated with staff, we talk a lot about being a team and being on the team, and this cut was going to be deep because we didn't want to do it again next year. And we were all going to share in the sacrifice and the burden of right-sizing the organization, every one of us. And that seemed to resonate with people. I would love to give an increase. If we do that, it's just cutting into what we have saved for next year. And that just puts us, closer to making the cuts down the road. So that was really the intention and the mentality behind not doing a COLA increase this year, is that we all share the burden of right-sizing the organization.
Maybe by that way, the COLA would be larger next year, having saved some this year or more. Members of the commission, comments, questions?
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Yeah, this was a very this was a very horrible procedure to go through and process. You know, looking at different cuts and things like that, being intimately involved with this whole working process. You know, I keep my comments relatively brief. I understand both sides of this particular point, and I'm gonna really back up the amount of work that was done by our staff and the decisions that came across all of the leadership within our staff. And so, while it's always difficult, and this decision is going to be difficult probably for everybody sitting here, right, I really reflect on the term, the right sizing of our organization. So I'm gonna stick with staff recommendation.
All right, anybody else?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I was just curious on the action on this. Is it just are you looking for advice from the commission to give back to the meeting later this morning, or is this, yeah, I was just kind of looking for what that action is.
So if you allow me, and jump in when you want to, I read the action item as presentation and approval of the budget. So I believe really we're looking for both. But the vote is to approve the budget, and the budget contains the various different projections and recommendations of what will be done with the staff and the salaries.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I want to be brief too and just recognize the work that goes into CCX and the work that went into this budget and the intention behind keeping this great organization moving forward. And I also think I have to defer to leadership of CCX when it comes to budget decisions, and want to kind of reinforce your opinion. So I think that's where I'm at with all of this.
Thank you. Anybody else? Is there a motion to approve the budget for 2026?
So moved.
Is there a second? Comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no or nay. That motion carries. Okay, thank you. So, information items, legal and legislative update.
That's me. Good morning again. I'll be very brief, hopefully. I just wanted to bring to your attention, there's been some sales of broadband systems that impact your area. One is the sale of USI to T-Mobile, and the other one is the sale of Lumen's Mass Markets fiber assets from Lumen to a company called Forge Fiber 37 LLC. The reason I raise that is that could impact franchising in your area. And if you or your city is getting correspondence on those two transactions, I would just encourage you to speak with Shannon about that before taking action. Secondly, there's a possible preemption action going forward at the FCC. We'll know more at the end of September, but I wanted to bring it to your attention now, as it may be something that the commission or the commissions in Minnesota may want to participate in. We believe there will be a notice of inquiry released at the end of September. We'll know more, when the notice actually comes out. But it's looking like it would be a notice of inquiry on permitting relating to wireless and wireline services, and those could negatively impact local governments in Minnesota and across the country. And lastly, I just wanted to let you know that MACTA, which is an organization that this commission is a part of, filed with the FCC in response to some claims of unnamed jurisdictions doing things that should result in preemption of local governments. And MACTA encouraged the FCC not to take phantom claims into consideration, and that local governments, if they're being blamed for something, they should at least be identified as to who they are. And the commission should not be, the commission meaning the FCC, should not be taking action on items that can't be verified. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you all might have. Thank you.
All right, anybody questions? Comments? Okay, next item is the city manager meeting possibility.
Yes, I would like to update everyone on that. We are going to have a meeting of city managers here in this room on October 23rd. So this stems from conversation in the joint meeting of the commission and the CCX Media Board of Directors Executive Committee on August 7th, where we talked about broadband franchising, and there was just a desire for, can we get all the city managers in one room to talk about this? And so we are going to attempt to make that happen. So I've sent out save the dates to your city managers. I've sent out calendar invites, so please put in a good word. We'll feed lunch. We will have Mike Bradley here. I've invited them to bring their city attorney as well. So let's just get in a room and let's talk about what's coming up. And so please put that on your calendar for your city managers.
Shannon?
Yes,
I assume that you're not intentionally excluding the city administrators that are sitting in the room?
that is
With
correct.
the term managers?
Managers and administrators.
Thank you.
My apologies. You know who you are.
So that's an important meeting. Our 9 communities represent 350,000 people approximately, and that's the second largest franchise in Minnesota, trailing only Minneapolis probably.
That's correct.
So thanks for doing that. It should be a situation where all the 9 communities are sort of on the same page, and as my city manager Tim Sandvik said, like, a small community can't really afford to do everything that should be done, and when we have 9 cities all together, maybe we have more power and more expertise and more ability to do these things. So this is a very cool meeting, I think. So thanks for thinking of that and organizing that.
Absolutely.
Next, we come to other. Are there any other things that any commission members want to talk about here today? Does anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say no. That motion carries. We are adjourned.
All right, we'll go ahead and move right into the meeting with the CCX Media Board of Directors. Roll call has already been performed by staff. Looking for an approval of today's agenda, please.
Motion to approve.
All right, with our rules are different than the commission, so we don't require seconds for our things. So having a motion on the table, is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Good. Opposed? All right. On the next one, consent items. Can I see an affirmative motion approving consent items, please?
Motion to approve.
Great, we have a motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Perfect. Action items. Number 1, consider Comcast franchise extension.
All right, Mr. President, I will defer to our attorney again, Mike Bradley.
Well, good morning again, and I don't really have a whole lot more to add from to this meeting that I said at the last meeting. There's, we've tentatively agreed to a franchise extension. That franchise extension includes the cable franchise, but it also includes the local origination programming agreement, and that's part of. It's one of the documents in addition to the franchise that allows the CCX Media to receive certain channels, certain local origination channels. And so we're recommending approval of the extension of both agreements.
All right, does anybody have any questions?
Discussion?
Sure.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. According to the franchise extension agreement in Section 3, it seems like it's dated back to April of 2025. and it indicates that it'll change the PEG fee to a 2.5% from a flat fee. So that appears to then impact budgetary numbers that may have been presented for the year 2025, since revenue hasn't been collected from April of 2025. And also, can you clarify, are PEG fees restricted as to how they can be spent?
Chair and members, yes, PEG fees are restricted on how they can be spent. PEG fees are to be used for capital expenditures.
And the April 1st, 2025 backdating?
Yeah, I haven't been involved in the budgeting, so I have no idea how that impacts your budget.
Okay, but just to be clear, this is retroactively effective?
I believe that's true. Yep.
Okay, any other questions? Looking for a motion to consider approval of the Comcast franchise extension, please. Okay, we have a motion. Any additional dialogue or discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Perfect. Passes unanimously. Resolution accepting donations to CCX Media, Resolution 202503.
Mr. President and Board, we are always happy to accept donations to CCX Media, which is a nonprofit, and we love to highlight them. So we have a resolution accepting the donations that are listed on the page in your packet, but also on the screen. Living Christ's Mission donated $200. And then we have some frequent donors who have a few reoccurring donations. So Alicia Cameron, Fatima Hajitaki. So we would like to say thank you to those individuals as well. And we would like to recommend that this resolution be passed, accepting those.
All right, looking for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
All right, motion approved is on the floor. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Perfect. Passes unanimously. Next agenda item, presentation approval of CCX Media 2025 budget. I do want to point out, just for the conversation, that the budget has been adopted by the commission, so we do not have the power to really increase the budget at all. I would imagine that if there's any other things that we'd like to consider at this point in time, it'd probably be a fair game. But with withholding all that stuff, Shannon, go ahead, take it away.
Yes, Mr. President and Board, I have the privilege of presenting the CCX Media budget. It is in your packet. The goal with this budget this year, as indicated in the strategic plan that we talked about at the last meeting, was to shrink back in all departments, and that's what we did. It was tough, but once again, I was thankful to walk through this with our department managers. So I'm going to present this budget today in a slightly different way because I want you to see how we restructured what we did to really balance out the cuts that we had to make. This round of cuts was very different than the ones that this organization went through in 2020. At that point, we cut 4.5 people, but we maintained the status quo of what we did. This time, we could not maintain the status quo. We had to cut back, shrink our output as well. So I'm going to walk you through that as well as with some of the budget numbers. We eliminated 7 positions, as mentioned previously, and those went across all departments. On the budget outlook page that you'll see on the screen, you can see this reflected in the program services line, which is our salaries line. Program services also does not include a COLA increase for salaries, like we've mentioned in the previous meeting, so I won't go back into the reasons for that. My hope is that the cuts this year keep us in a good place with our declining revenue, so we don't have to make any of these hard decisions till maybe 2027 to impact the 2028 budget. Also on this budget outlook page, you'll see there's a decrease in operating expenses. This was by looking at many of our services and just trying to figure out where we can cut where we can. We cut back on janitorial, we cut back on snow shoveling, our phone services. We're looking at contracts, just wherever we can look to trim. I feel like we've looked there by now, so that's a little less as well. On the next slide, here are our sources of revenue, with the largest, of course, coming from the commission. We are expecting, once again, to increase our for-hire and creative services because we're moving some services like commencements, graduations, recitals into the for-hire category. We're also contracting with the City of Wayzata to run their meetings. So we do expect that number to go up, and I feel like this is a conservative projection on your screen. Google ad revenue, unfortunately, continues to fall, and this is impacted by 3 different reasons. One, we are at the mercy of Google ads and algorithms. So we're kind of at the mercy with whatever rules they decide to play by. Secondly, we're not seeing the news consumption on local outlets be quite what it was coming out of the pandemic in 2020. That kind of continues to go down. And thirdly, perhaps most importantly, we don't do clickbait stories. So if you look at the stories that we do on our website, for example, the big one yesterday, XP Lee won the special election in Brooklyn Park. That's only going to go so far. It's an important story for the Brooklyn Park community, but it's not going to be clickbait that's going to bring us a lot of revenue. So if you look at what we do, we're kind of where we need to be. So we appreciate this revenue. It's passive income, but we're not really banking on it to save the day. All right. We are continuing to sell sports sponsorships. We included that in the budget this time. We've got some exciting news to tell you about, and the staff report's coming up later. On the next slide, we're going to lean into what restructuring looks like in terms of declining revenue. And I'm calling it restructuring, but honestly, it's just shrinking. We're not really changing how our organization operates. We're just shrinking back on everything we do. And I do have some of our department managers present today that they can lean in and answer questions as well if you have any specifics. In news, sports, and city stories, we will move from producing daily content on the channel and website to producing daily content on the website still, keeping our content where people can access it, but only weekly content on the channel. It takes a lot of staff time to update the channel every day. And so it just makes sense to put our most resources where the most eyeballs will be. So this is a change. We are planning on transitioning back to a weekly show. Fun fact, we had a weekly show here until 1993. That's when that changed. So we're going back to 1993 and we'll be having a weekly show once again because it fits in more with what we do. The first one will air on October 4th. We're meeting weekly to really prepare for this big change. On the next slide, let's talk about how we are restructuring sports and events. Starting this fall, we're reducing live sports coverage by 30 to 50%. Right now, it's at 50%, but we really didn't take into account any playoff games. So playoff games will change that percentage right there, and of course, we hope all of our teams do well. We're going to focus more on lighter, scalable productions. We're going to shift to for-hire events for some productions, which I've already mentioned. And then we're going to test a subscription-based or paywall model. And I was much more optimistic 2 weeks ago on this than I am now. We've hit so many roadblocks on this. Most of your ice arenas, your schools, your conferences already have streaming partners where there is a subscription and paywall involved. And the moment we get involved in that and we try to do the same is the moment we lose access. So I continue to have your conversations. I continue to work on this, but not nearly as optimistic as I was a few weeks ago. So stay tuned on this. I haven't given up yet. Moving on to the next screen. Okay, creative services. We've never had one person in our organization who just does creative services. We've never had that much revenue or that much business, but we've also just always folded this into what we do throughout the building, and that will continue. We have a point person for creative services, but we're really looking at it as a team-based approach. So when we have a project, we will work on it, and we will use what talents that we can to bring revenue into the organization. On the next slide, you will see we will talk about Create. We are planning for a big Create reset starting in January. So staff is working on this, and we do expect to explain this a little more in depth in the November meeting and some of the reasons behind these different bullet points, but I will hit the highlights on your screen. We are planning on launching a new member management software that lets people log in and book studio hours and do more on their phones instead of calling our building. We're updating hours to reflect current usage patterns, revising the time slot system, so this includes time slots both in the studio and on the channel. We are creating a centralized content upload process. We spend a lot of staff time on scheduling, and we really need to cut that back. We're going to develop clear expectations for volunteers and members, and also introduce membership fees and a restructured facility schedule. We are putting a lot of time and thought into this with how our building is used and also how other community media centers operate around the state. Expect to learn more about this coming up in November as well. Moving on to the next screen, you will see a very simplified breakdown of expenses divided by a department. So you can see very clearly that expenses went down in every department, largely due to staffing cuts and trimming operations. In your packet, you do have the expanded spreadsheet where you can see these more in depth. We worked further to consolidate expenses. So if you remember last year's budget, you might have seen, for example, Cablecast spread out over multiple departments because many departments use it. We really tried to just make it as easy as possible. So that's under, tech services and software. So it's just in one place. You can really see the cost of what that item is. I also included in your packet the one-pager CCX budget at a glance with a pie chart with notes on the budget and expenses, as well as 2 pages of the restructuring overview, which I hope give you a little more insight to how we are changing our organization as we shrink back on the number of people we have. Again, I would like to thank Julie McMackins from Abdo Financial Services, James Anderson for helping walk through this very difficult process this summer. I'm open to answering your questions, and I would also like to ask for approval today.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions? Go ahead.
So first, just phenomenal job. I know that it has not been an easy process whatsoever. My question has to do with just sort of the general impact to staff, and this was percolating during the COLA conversation, and while I know that the budget realities are what they are, I wonder, is there any sort of possibility for non-monetary ways to support the staff? Like, how are people doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. I appreciate you asking, because it's really been hard around here. One thing that I did right after the May meeting is have all employees in this room, and we really walked through the strategic plan. I answered questions. I did let them know very clearly, yes, we are cutting the budget, and the largest part of our budget are people. And so we had several people that left, that found other jobs, and that was okay. And I did it that way because if I was in their shoes, I would want to know. I would want to know so I could work on my resume, and I could be in charge of what comes next. We have several long-tenured employees who are very dedicated to being here, and so I definitely appreciate that. But yeah, I think there's been a lot of stress, and so I think maybe one of the best things that you can do is just reach out to our staff and say thank you, say good job, give them feedback. They're keeping on here, so we're very grateful to that.
Eric?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I also want to echo the same sentiments that we all feel, right? These are people that we care very much about. They're not just employees of CCX Media, they're, our friends. And we know that the decisions were very difficult. I appreciate the discussion on the potential COLA increase. It was modeled on hypotheticals, but it was intended to be, not really have an increase or impact to the budget. And I know that the commission's already passed the budget without a COLA increase, and I was not aware at the time that the department heads had, already expressed that they did not think it was appropriate to have COLA increases this year. So thank you for considering that. I do think it is important. Not everyone is in the same place at the same, grade level or pay level. And despite our best intentions, everyone is going to absorb a lot of work to meet the goals that are outlined in this work. And I just wanted everyone to feel reassured that you are indeed valued and that we're doing everything we can to keep the place going. But you probably already knew that. So thank you for letting me share those comments. I do, however, have questions about the budget and the 2025 numbers as they relate to the April 1st, 2025 restatement of the 2.5% increase from the previous fixed fee amount. I'm not sure because I don't know, and I asked council. They were unaware. They said it was a budgetary item. Has that money been already recognized or realized in our accounting? Will there be some impact in the negative and or the positive to 2025 revenues? Because according to this extension agreement, it does appear that there will be a material change.
We do expect to receive more for PEG fees, but we did not include it in the budget because we didn't know if it would be passed. We didn't know when we'll actually start receiving that. So we just chose to be conservative in that and not budget for money we didn't have yet.
Okay, thank you for that. Just so that I'm clear,
Mm-hmm.
this budget does not include any PEG fees?
Nope, it includes fees on how we've always calculated with the
Oh,
dollar
okay.
36 per
Okay, got
subscriber.
it. So there may be potentially a negative impact, as likely as there could be a positive one, since we're not projecting what the 2.5% increase will result in.
Shannon will take that one.
Okay.
Definitely there could be. We can't control subscribership, and so that's the underlying variable that is totally unpredictable, so.
Okay.
That's why staff, I mean, it's very commonly, you don't spend money that you know you're not gonna get, and
Right.
so that's why they went conservative with this.
Thank you for that. I appreciate the opportunity to ask the questions.
Mhm. Is that all?
Oh, yes, thank
Okay.
you.
Normally, you're not so concise, so I was just making sure that.
I've
you
been working on it,
weren't taking
Mr. Chair, because I know that you prefer it that way.
breath. Any other questions? All right, hearing no other discussion, I'm looking for a motion to approve the CCX Media 2025 budget. Okay, we have a motion. Any additional discussion, conversation? All right, all in favor? Aye? Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so we have approval. All right, here's the fun part of the meeting, staff reports.
Yeah, I think it's the fun part too.
I agree.
So I urge the board to read through the staff reports. I really tried to go in depth there, and then when I'm in front of you, I just want to hit the highlights. Sorry, it's supposed to be off. All right, let's look at the first slide, and the video on your screen are highlights from the MACTA one-day conference, which was on July 29th. The decision for MACTA to move from having their conference at a conference center to having it as a PEG station was simple. It was cost. We wanted to bring the cost down for attendees. Everyone is dealing with declining revenue and shrinking budgets. And we also wanted to boost attendance, and I think we did. We had the highest attendance to what we had in 2018. So we had 115 people present. We had the same number of sponsors that we had in 2018. And we also had a higher number of people stay till the very end, which is also a plus, so people didn't duck out. We really rolled out the welcome mat, and CCX Media shone. The day before the conference, several of our sister PEG stations sent employees to help get the building ready. Our staff did a fantastic job just being charming and answering questions about the building and what we do, our workflow, our technology. You can see on your screen we had production trucks from all sorts of PEG stations around the metro area in the front driveway answering questions. That's the vendor space in Studio B. So it was a great day. It was a great day to really come together and talk about important issues facing us all. ADA compliance standards, our legislative work. We learned a few tools along the way, like outdoor lighting sessions, smart solutions for our budgeting. So it really was a successful event, and I wanted to make sure we highlighted that today. On the next screen, you'll see we won a few awards, and so I always like to highlight those. NATOA, which is a national organization, we received an award of distinction in New Series for a story compilation. And then we received an award of honor in live sports, Maple Grove versus Shakopee State Class 6A football. So always proud of our staff for doing well in these national awards. On the next slide, you'll see that we've sold a few sponsorships, so we are so excited about this. Our premier sponsor back again, Topline Financial Credit Union. I had a great discussion with the folks over at Topline, and we are an important part of their marketing strategy because we appeal to families, families that have kids in school. So that's one reason why we resonate with them. So we're very proud to have them back. And also a note that what you say does matter. It was brought up several times that one of our board members, Mike Ostaffi, said really good things about our partnership with Topline. So thank you so much for your words. It really does make all the difference when you use your voices and you run into some of these folks in the community. And then just a few days ago, we signed Scott's Lawn Care. This is a trade agreement. They're the ones that are responsible for snow removal and lawn removal. So that saves us on our snow and lawn bill for a few months. So we're very thankful to Scott's Lawn Care for being a supporting sponsor. In my perfect world, we have several supporting sponsors. Right now, we only have one. So if you have a referral, please let us know. We're willing to work with these small local businesses. We know that's really where we resonate. We're willing to work with them on the best way to support our product, but also give them a little bit of publicity as well. All right, moving on to the next slide. The Northern Lights Award. So This is an award handed out by the Minnesota Association of Government Communicators, and we went to a lovely conference at the Plymouth Community Center, and we received 2 awards for our work. This is the city's team, a silver award for the Robbinsdale Police Cadets story, and then a bronze award for the West Metro Fire Smart 911 program. So these are the stories that Rusty and Sarah worked together with your city communication directors and put together. So exciting to know that we can compete with other city communication staff from around the state as well. On the next slide, I want to highlight some exciting work that's been going on over in Create. I'm really proud of Create Coordinator Adam Estrom for having a great partnership this summer with the Brooklyn Bridge Alliance for Youth's Elevate Youth Summer Program. So he was out in high schools. He spent 120 instructional hours talking about digital storytelling and media literacy. He was at Cooper High School, Brooklyn Center High School, and Park Center High School. And then we would have students back in the building, and it was kind of several of us that were shepherding students around, getting them on camera. I tell our staff a lot, we really don't have to sell how cool a TV studio is. It just kind of sells itself. And so it's so much fun to work with youth and let them see the bright lights and that how much you can really do with media that goes beyond just what you can do on your phone and YouTube. On the next screen, we're going to end with something that's truly out of this world. We had aliens in the studio. We've had several creative services projects lately where they've rented out our facility. So the film crew came in and they needed to rent our facility for a day. And the scene was this guy is an alien and he was being interviewed on a late night talk show. So they were in this room and they kind of had this late night talk show, kind of a monologue thing. He spent 2 hours plus in makeup, getting all looking like this. So it was really cool that I was getting texts from staff on look what's happening here. We have aliens here. So that was really fun. So I wanted to highlight that as well. And with that, that's a quick overview of staff reports.
All right, anybody have any questions for Shannon? I do have one regarding the sponsorships.
Yes.
Could you send out some type of correspondence to both us and the commission, what those sponsorships look like?
Absolutely.
Give us some information, since our help would be, all of our help would be great in help soliciting some of these. If we could just have some more details, would give us a much more educated approach to selling these for you.
I appreciate that. I absolutely will do that.
Great. Any other questions?
Well, just
Sure, go
to
ahead.
add on to that, the trade,
Mhm.
what services do you need potentially around here that could be in trade that we can approach businesses for?
Okay.
That would be good.
Yeah, we'll put some thought into that. Thank you.
Okay, anything else?
No.
So that's it?
Mhm.
Any of the other staff presenting with us today at all?
No?
Well, this is, okay, well then with that, looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, see you next time.